I was able to buy 2 rental properties before 24 years old, while at the same time never making more than $40,000 a year up till then. So how did I do that, right? Like, everyone knows you need a lot of money to get started in real estate investing. Well, not quite actually. A lot of people are under the assumption that you need a 20 to 25% down payment at minimum to even start looking at investment properties, not to mention the behind the scenes that the bank wants to see usually 3 to 6 months worth of reserves for after you purchase a property, that in case anything goes wrong or you have vacancies, they know that you can still make the mortgage payments. And that way of investing is still a thing. Like, it happens all the time, but it's really not the best avenue for someone just starting out, especially if that someone is young. And this is where house hacking comes into play. What house hacking is buying a small multifamily property, 2 to 4 units, and you're gonna use one of those units as your primary residence. Which of course means you're gonna be living on the property, occupying one of the units while renting out the remaining of the units. This of course will allow you to take that rent you collect and put it towards the property expenses. So chances are, you're gonna put it towards your mortgage, right? So you'll be living well below the normal cost of living, if not for free, depending on how many units you have and what the rental rates are. Going this avenue for investing actually changes the types of loans you can get for those investment properties, because again, you're using it as your primary residence, so therefore you have access to like all the first-time home buyer programs and all the low down payment programs too. So those loans could be something like a 3.5% down FHA loan, 5% down conventional loan. You could use a VA loan, and even in some scenarios, depending where you are, you could use a USDA loan, which the last 2 are 0% down. So this allows you to get into an investment property for what it would cost you just to get into a regular house, and you'll get started on the right foot with real estate, starting with an investment property and having something that's actually going to continue to pay you after you move out. Okay, so with all that quick information to kind of set the scene, give you a little bit of an idea of what I'm going to be talking about, how did I actually buy my 2 properties before I hit 24 years old? So my first property on Green Street was a 2-unit multifamily property, and this I bought back in 2019. Now back in 2019 just happened to be the time that I was looking at real estate, and I was kind of lucky at that point because it was more of a buyer's market, meaning I actually had options. Like, it wasn't, it gets listed on a Thursday and it's getting decided by Monday who's getting the offer accepted. It wasn't like that. Like, you had a couple weeks, you could literally see a property, wait 2 weeks to put in an offer, and you could actually negotiate terms with the seller. And with this one in particular, I negotiated with the seller to get $7,500 back at closing, which ended up meaning I only had to bring $5,200 to closing. And I don't think most people understand what I'm saying with this. I bought that place for $5,200 out of my pocket. I've owned it for over 5 years now, and I've collected well over $100,000 worth of rent from a property I brought a $5,200 check to buy. That is just mind-blowing. If it's not blowing your mind, I don't know what could then, because that is crazy. Oh yeah, and to add a cherry on top of that, the 3 years that I spent living at that property in the second floor in a really nice unit, I was living for about $300 a month. And actually at sometimes I had myself a roommate, and I was actually cash flowing, living on that property and owning that property. I was cash flowing like $200 a month, which is just, that's all I can say. Like, that's crazy. Then back in 2022, I finally kind of found a deal that actually looked good because I was looking the whole time. And then one really popped up and I liked it. So I went over to take a look at that. In this one, I now live in, still own or occupy the top unit. And I've been here since 2022, and it's been a great property. Now this one, I did have to bring a little bit more money to the closing table. But originally when I went into the purchase and made the offer, I was expecting to put a 5% down payment on it because I was going to use that 5% down conventional loan. But a little bit before closing, I got the news that my debt to income ratio was not good enough with 5% down. And if I bumped it up to 10%, then the deal could go through and I could be able to close and own the home. So I ended up having to bring 10% down, which with closing costs and all that, equated to roughly around $30,000. Now I know a lot of you are saying $30,000? Where am I supposed to get $30,000? I don't have $30,000. I can't invest in real estate. Okay, I know $30,000 might sound like a lot, But the reason I was able to keep saving that much money was because the last 3 years, I was practically living for free. I had a couple $100 in expenses for my housing, and then I'm a very simple guy. I don't have a car payment. I don't have much other than like insurance and a cell phone and internet. So my expenses were so low, I just kept saving and saving and saving. And I was working 2 jobs at the time. I was a part-time delivery driver and a part-time real estate agent. And then buying this second property, it actually allowed me to move full-time into real estate. So it was just amazing. And of course, in this video, I wanted to add how I actually saved that money to begin with, because when I bought the first property, even with $5,000, I had way more than that saved in my bank account, but I had a lot in it because I wanted a cushion. Getting invested in real estate, yes, you can get in for cheap, but once that property is yours, you have to take care of it. So if something goes wrong, you're the one forking up that money to pay the bill. So I knew I needed some reserves, and I was just super strict with money coming out of high school. Like, maybe a little too strict, but it worked. So after high school, I didn't go to college. I just went right into the workforce, got a 40-hour-a-week job, which was more like 55-ish, but I got a job and I took full advantage of living with my parents for 2 years or so, kind of on and off. We got an apartment at one point and then moved back, but I took full advantage of it. And what I would do, every week I got paid, I would automatically take $500 of that, set it aside for savings. Now, at the time, my girlfriend was not the biggest, or my girlfriend at the time was not the biggest fan of that, because here I am making like $600, $800, maybe a little bit more per week. But I put $500 aside and I'd live off $100 to $300. And that's what I did. I just made it a rule and I stuck to the rule because I knew it would pay off. So with that said, after 2 years of full-time work, getting overtime and staying with this saving, I had well over $48,000, $50,000 in my bank account, so I could feel comfortable to go into real estate investing and actually know, hey, it's not necessarily the hard part of getting the building. It's like the peace of mind, okay, I have the building and I also have funds in case anything goes wrong. And for anyone who's looking to get into real estate investing, you're young, or maybe you're not even young. Maybe you just want to go buy a house and you're like, I want to start off on the right foot with an investment property. I truly think house hacking is the best way you can start off in investing, because it's like a foolproof way of doing it. You still have to get pre-approved, which means the bank still needs to make sure you could afford this mortgage by yourself, essentially. And even if you suck at renting, which seems pretty hard, if you suck at it and you have no tenant, well, then the worst that happens is you just cover your mortgage payment, which again, you should be comfortable with because you got pre-approved. So like, that's the worst that can happen, but you should be good at renting. Get a renter in there, have them pay for most of your mortgage, and then you live for cheap or for free is even better. And also, don't think just because you're getting into real estate investing that you have to become like this real estate tycoon with hundreds or thousands of units. Like, you'd be surprised what a small number of units does. Like, even for me, just 4 is life-changing. Like, I don't say, like, I am able to work as a self-employed person in real estate sales because I have investment properties. It's life-changing for me, at least. Like, it literally changed what I do for work. So it's life-changing. And the last thing I'm gonna kind of touch on here is a little bit of a warning for anyone that's like, oh my God, this sounds almost too good to be true. Let me get a house hack right now. Please, 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 please educate yourself a little bit. Go get some books, listen to some podcasts, watch some YouTube on finances, on real estate, on property management, and actually know what you're getting yourself into. Because if you go into this with zero knowledge, you will have a bad experience at some point. You might be lucky for a little bit, but it's gonna hit at some point that you don't know anything. So get good with your money, be able to analyze deals with the snap of a finger and be like, yep, that's a good deal, I'm comfortable, and then just do it. Just get the property and you're an investor. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I will catch you guys next week.